Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. Hey, in my series of Freemasonry and Satanism, a new book, or I should say books, review number 105. I learn a lot from the comments that people who watch my videos when they tell me things. And one recent comment was one of the viewers of my videos asked me if I had heard of Harry Hubbard. And I think vaguely I did. And he said his videos were similar to mine and I should get to know him. So I went and watched some of Harry Hubbard's videos, in particular in relation to Pizzagate and sex, magic, and the occult. He has a lot of videos, Harry Hubbard. I think he's the son or relative of Ron Hubbard, who wrote the book Dianetics. So I watched the video, and he was reading passages out of the Encyclopaedia Judaica. So I went online, as I usually do, and looked up some books. And this is a kind of a synopsis, this book. It's real thin. The Encyclopedia set, of course, is 16 books. And I don't know how high, probably 3 feet if you stacked them up. Big, thick books, 8 by 12 inches. And I did go online on Abe Used Books. And crazily enough, I found some of the encyclopedia, the 16-volume set, and I was able to find 4 of them. They're alphabetic, of course, like encyclopedias. And I did receive them in a mail in a huge box. It was quite heavy for 4 books. And also, amazingly enough, it was only $20, including shipping. So I shall pursue collecting additional books of the Encyclopaedia Judaica. Let me read what's on the cover of this one. Come ye, and let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his path. For out of Zion shall up forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So, what do people know about Zionism and the Jewish utopia and their desire to rule the world, and apparently trying to convince the whole world that God told them that they were going to rule the world? And of course, one of my questions is I got several, but which God? I mean, a lot of Jewish people, not all, of course. You can't blame all Jews for the actions of some. But and there is a big divide in the Jewish community, just like in America we have the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and you got the Green Party and the Liberal Party. That's 4. There's probably more political parties. In Britain they got numerous political parties. Even in Israel they got numerous political parties. So apparently Zionism, to me, is some sort of a social political party of Jews. And there are numerous Jews, just like there are the Democrats are against the Republicans, and the Republicans are against the Democrats, like in the election we just had between Trump and Hillary Clinton. They oppose each other. So a lot of Jews are opposed to the Zionists, FYI. But it's much more vicious than that. Because like Tex Mars and many other books that I've gone over, Bloody Zion, Edward Hendry, and Henry Ford, the automaker, so many more. And even the Freemasonic books, and Jack Bernstein, the American Jew who moved to Israel. Just have to call these up on the top of my head here. There's more. if you look at my series of Freemasonry and Satanism. And also something you should know, if you go on my website, rickmiracle.com, and you look in the top left corner of the front page, you'll see a link to go to a list of all the series, the book reviews I've done, what book and author is associated with 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 105. So you can print it out and use it as a little guide. I intend to fill it in with how many books are in each series, how many reviews. For example, in the Blue Lodge Handbook, I got 12 two-hour videos. I wanted to get that thoroughly read for people. But back to this Encyclopaedia Judaica. This is just a synopsis of the encyclopedia set when it came out. And I've already started. I have the encyclopedia number J for Kabbalah. And I've been reading it already. So I'll be reading from these 4 volumes that I have, or the 4 books of the volume, of the set, on different issues like Kabbalah and other words that are in the ones I have. And there's plenty of there. And it's quite a revelation, quite illuminating, to use the secret society's own terms. Revealing. And people ought to know. People tell me there's no such thing as Zion. You're crazy. The Illuminati. What's with Kabbalah and not Marilyn, but Madonna into the Kabbalah. And many other movie stars into psychics and readings and all this occult stuff. So I like to go right to the bottom of it, to the books, and read from it. So I did read this, and I made a lot of highlighted notes, as you can see here. And then from then on, I'm going to read different topics in these 4 books I have of the Encyclopaedia Judaica. And it could be 10, 20, 40, 50 videos in this series, 105. That's how important I think this is. I think we all need to be aware of what's going on in the world right now. We all kind of realize that there is some great happenings. This threat of World War III with Russia and China and the United States. New World Order, New Age. And if you look at the sky behind me, I don't see any serious sky spraying today, which is unusual. You would think it would be reversed. In the HARP transmissions, I see the ripples in the material dumped in the sky. Anyways, there's a lot going on that's seemingly moving this new paradigm of reality forward at an ever so slow pace that a lot of us don't see it. So I think I'll read some from this book and see if we can make some sense out of all this. Alright, to begin with, Freemasonry and Satanism, book review 105. The front cover inside, Jewish law, the Holocaust period, Israel, Jewish mysticism, a comprehensive history covering Kabbalah and pseudo-Masonic movements by the renowned authority, Professor Gershom Scholem. I'm saying that wrong. Contemporary Jewry, Jews in Arab countries, and Yiddish. A full critical evaluation of the rich cultural phenomenon, including the Yiddish language, theater, literature, and press, etc. Now you remember, if you watched my Henry Ford videos, I don't think I have them all reposted yet, but I will. And the Yiddish people, the Jewish people from the Russian territories after World War I were sent to training camps all over Europe, preparing them to immigrate to the United States. And they were probably, at that time, predominantly the only ones allowed to immigrate to the United States, into New York. And it was causing a lot of uproar in the New York communities and other communities throughout the United States. And one of the people who wrote about it was Henry Ford Sr., the automaker, when he bought the Dearborn Independent newspaper. And the Jews decided to attack him and try to get people to not buy Henry Ford's cars and destroy him for trying to get the information out. For example, in some of the movie theaters, the Yiddish Jews would be in there speaking a language that most people around them couldn't understand. But they were singing songs that were a clear insult to we the people of America, making fun of us. And of course they do think that a lot of Jews, not all Jews, think that we're goyim or goy, which means cattle. And of course they call us Gentiles, which means non-Jews. So how many other cultures or other races or other religions in the world single everybody else out as the enemy? None that I know of. And again, another interesting thing is a lot of people say that the people in Israel today, or people who call themselves Jews today, are actually not the original bloodline of the Hebrews back when Moses helped those Hebrews escape from Egypt. That Khazaria, northern Central Europe, near Russia, Khazaria, the king there decided to have the whole country join a particular religion. And he investigated the Islamic religion, the Christian religion, and the Jewish religion. But when he found out that the Jewish people were so-called the chosen people, the king decided to make his whole nation a nation of Jewish people, Khazarians. So they didn't have any actual Jewish blood in them, but they adopted that religion. And so a lot of people think that the real Jews out there, like Jack Bernstein talked about in his book, The American Jew Who Moved to Israel, that I have reposted. So you get these Ashkenazi Jews who are seemingly looked down upon and treat the other Jews, the real Jews, like second-class citizens. So I'm going to read from this, and maybe some of all this will make sense, and we can all get on the same page and understand the truth. Oh, I'm back. Had to go inside and warm up. It's kind of cold out here. Found a new place to make videos. Let's take a look at this magazine, a synopsis of the 16-volume set of the Encyclopaedia Judaica. Something new, by the way, for the, and I guess you could say this plural, for the Jews to publish the entire history of the Jews. So I suppose we can believe what's written in those books and those encyclopedias. I believe they were first published in 1971. All right. An aerial view of Jerusalem looking south. So you can see the dome and apparently what was King Solomon's temple and grounds. A lot of people are aware that if you go look up a map of Israel, you will find plenty of samples with the map in 1946-47, when apparently the United Nations and other countries gave the nod, illegally a lot of other people say, for the annexation of the Palestinians, some of the Palestinians' land, to create the state of Israel. It was just a small piece of land. But if you look at the map, and they got a series of 4 or 3, no more, you'll see as the years went by, the Israel color on the map, blue I think, or green, was growing and growing and growing. So if you go back to 46, Israel had a small piece and Palestine was a huge country. And now Palestine has a small piece and Israel has it all. And apparently not too long ago, according to one press release I saw on the internet, Google had decided to take the word Palestine off of the world map. What a surprise there, huh? So anyways, and here's a picture. Like I said, I learned about this Encyclopaedia Judaica from the Harry Hubbard, watching his videos that somebody recommended to me. And yesterday somebody recommended another guy, Professor Doom, and I've been looking at his videos. So I do appreciate the comments. So here I've been studying for 12 years and I never knew that this existed. This encyclopedia set. But now I know. And now you know. Got some neat pictures in this book. I shall be investigating this. Lion, birds, tree, elk. And apparently this is one of the Professor Cecil Roth, Editor-in-Chief, 1965-1970. Like I said, if you can't believe what's in these encyclopedias, which I said, I don't know how many videos I'm going to make. It'd probably take all of 2017 to get 25 or 30 done, besides all the other things I'm going to do, other books. So there's the Professor Cecil Roth. The Encyclopaedia Judaica suffered a great loss June 21, 1970, with the death of Editor-in-Chief, Professor Cecil Roth. Quite an educated guy. Dr. Roth said it would encompass these encyclopedia sets a totality of Jewish knowledge and scholarship, the history and philosophy of the Judaic heritage, the saga of the community creative continuity that has survived the Hamans, Hitler, ghettos, pogroms, to produce an Einstein, a Malinades, a Buber, and a Hertz. His first published work was The Last Florentine Republic. After that, he wrote profusely on Jewish history, including the history of the Jews in Venice. Well, that's interesting. Wasn't it in Venice where the Jews were the banksters, financiers, and procurer of materials and weapons for war from 1000 to 1300 AD for the 8 Crusades that went over to Palestine and that whole area along the coast, crossing north over the Mediterranean through places like Greece and Turkey and Bosnia. 8 times over 300 years, and when they got over to Palestine, not Israel, then they slaughtered everybody from the top, from the north, going down the coast to the south, taking over all the castles, and knee-deep in blood, leaving no men, women, and children alive. This is important to know. This is coming out of the Vatican, by the way. But the Jews in Venice were the financiers and supplier and made loans to the kings and even the Vatican. So they were in cahoots, if we want to know the truth. The elites and these Venetian Jewish people. And of course not all Jewish people. But it just mentions here, including the history of Jews of Venice, the history of the Moranos, a short history of the Jewish people. The magnificent Rothschilds is in this. I kid you not. Look in the bottom corner there. The magnificent Rothschilds, the leaders of the Illuminati, secret cults, like secret societies, who are part of this planning of this new paradigm and they're trying to destroy Christianity, and no mention of Jesus. I think if you're in the military now, the United States, you can get court-martialed for talking about Jesus. But I was at one of the major electronic stores that everybody goes to, if you want to buy a TV or a computer. And instead of a cross or any kind of Christian symbol on the door, I know I'm throwing my own 2 cents in here, but that's what I do. They had the menorah on there, which was in these encyclopedia sets. We'll talk about that. The 7-pointed candlestick, a very sacred symbol to the Jewish people. So why is a sacred Jewish symbol popping up everywhere during Christmas? It's that their holiday season also. But the Christian symbols have been eliminated, and Merry Christmas has been nixed. It's Happy Holidays. So there is a switcheroo taking place. I don't think too many people will argue about that. So I think it's important to understand the magnificent Rothschilds, the Sassoon dynasty, the history of Jews in England, the history of Jews in Italy, the Dead Sea Scrolls, a new historic approach, and the Jewish contribution to civilization. So I guess we can say that these people have a high opinion of themselves. But that's okay. They can write what they want, and I can read what they write, and we can talk about it. The editorial board, showing you what's in the book. Got these gloves on because it's freezing out here. I haven't made a video in a while, so I wanted to try to squeak one in on this December 10th, Saturday. So here are some letters written in response to these new published Encyclopaedia Judaica from a General Chaim Herzog, Keter Publishing House, and there's these books were published in 2 different sets. One was the Macmillan. Macmillan, you see it on the cover there. It says Macmillan on the back of the book. Those were published in New York. And then there's the Keter set, the ones I have, which were published in Israel. So I have the collection, 4 books, and I'm going to try to get more to complete the collection, to go through those books and look up different words and topics and make videos. It ought to be quite interesting. They got things in there like Freemasons and Menorah, and Kabbalah, and Germany. So we'll see what they have to say over the course of the next year. So, the new Encyclopaedia Judaica is the result of years of coordinated effort between scholars here and abroad. It covers in popular form a vast gamut of the Jewish knowledge and history, ranging from the dawn of our people's appearance on the world scene till the state of Israel in our time. It is a reference book for scholars. It is a great educational instrument for the deepening of Jewish faith, identity, and sense of historic involvement. Another guy here, General Chaim Herzog again, I guess, same guy. No, I guess it's Dear Chaim. This guy was Ben Gurion. That guy was Golda Meir. Find a little remote spot to do this video thing, and some other people pulled up. I am therefore convinced that it is the duty of every Jewish parent in the English-speaking world to have a copy of the encyclopedia, in their home for the benefit of the generation to come. So I guess we can say it's pretty serious stuff. Another guy here, Kairat Moshe, I'm saying these wrong, Jerusalem. The Encyclopaedia Judaica is a major event in contemporary Jewish culture. It provides a panoramic and detailed view of the Jewish civilization. There is still a vast gulf of incomprehension which separates men from their understanding of Jewish history and of Israel's vocation, Israel's persistence in a unique mystery, but a detailed knowledge and consciousness of the forces which have shaped it are as immense importance for our people's security and prestige. A scholarly assessment of the Jewish heritage in modern terms has long been overdue. I am moved and delighted that this has now become available with the publication of the Encyclopaedia Judaica. That would be Kiryat Moshe, Jerusalem. And one more comment here. Guy looks like that guy on Hogan's Heroes. He writes, I am deeply impressed by the Encyclopaedia Judaica and its significance for Jewry throughout the English-speaking world. There is no doubt that but from this publication is of great significance for the national and educational point of view for Jewry throughout the world. Here in one publication will Jewish youth, and indeed every Jew, find the answers to their many questions and the reasons for the revolution which has occurred in Jewry. So there was a big divide in Jewry, the peoples. There was the Orthodox Jews who believe in God, and then the ones who wanted to be reformed and have a revolution in the Jewish community. And I'm thinking these might be the people who say that Lucifer is their deity, these Zionist Jewish people. So if you go on Zionisms and images on the internet and check it out, you'll find the Orthodox, what I call the good Jews who still believe in God and the Ten Commandments, not the reformed ones who are promoting the New World Order, controlling the United Nations, promoting the transgender, pansexual, decadent world where anything goes, including Ashley Madison's website where you can find somebody to commit adultery with, and confidentiality guaranteed. So I'm just saying what this revolution means. The way I see it, which doesn't mean everybody has to see it my way. But this is what it says to me. Here in one publication will Jewish youth, and indeed every Jew, find the answers to their many questions, and the reasons for the revolution which has occurred in Jewry. Here too will the peoples of the world, learn to understand Jews and Judaism the better. I believe that the encyclopedia can play a very important part in the encouragement of Jewish consciousness amongst the Jewish people in the English-speaking world. Moshe Dylan. All right, gotta take a break. It's freezing out here. Well, I tried to make this video outdoors, down at a park by the French Broad River here in Asheville, North Carolina, but it was too cold. So I've taken the video indoors. Here we go. Page 8. Keter Publishing House, Mr. Ranchi. Dear Mr. Rishchi, I'm not reading all of it, just my highlighted portions as usual. The publication symbolizes the dualism of Jerusalem, the ancient and the modern, and it emphasizes the centrality of Jerusalem, which is the center from which Jewish knowledge spreads to the entire world. Start to pick up on a theme here. So I guess we're all going to get this, whether we like it or not. According to prophecy, I guess, the people who don't embrace this new Antichrist or new paradigm and, I guess, denounce Christianity and Jesus, those people who won't do that will be beheaded. According to prophecy, go read Revelation in the Bible. It says in there, Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. So what does that mean in the last book of the Bible in Revelation? Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. Are these Khazarians, these Akhenazis, who are a part of this one world order, new age paradigm? I'm reading the words here. It says here, entire world. Jewish knowledge spreads to the entire world. This was true in the past and now, and once again, Jerusalem can resume its unique role. I'm not making this stuff up. Just look at that first highlighted paragraph, that sentence. Jerusalem can resume its unique role. So Jerusalem, the dot on the map, illegally acquired in 1947, 46. But they were preparing for it long before then. I've already been reading these books. And now that I'm here at my house, I can show you one of these volumes. Look at this. I guess it's like 10 inches by 12 inches. Or huge. Heavy too. So anyways, I have been reading from it. From, as you can see, on the topic of the Kabbalah. It's quite interesting to read this stuff. Here's the Kabbalah occult Sephiroth, Tree of Life stuff. So we've got a lot to go over here that I've been reading if you want to learn the inside details of this stuff. So I'm going to continue reading the Judaica Encyclopedia. There's many interesting topics and pictures in these books. So I have 4 of them. All right, moving on with these comments from people. This was the mayor of Jerusalem. No city has had the same spiritual connotation for Jew and Christian as Jerusalem. The cornerstone of Western civilization. As the cover design of the Encyclopaedia Judaica constantly reminds us, the cover design, the prophet Isaiah said, "Learning shall come forth out of Zion." There's a mountain over there called Mount Zion. Why they call it Zionism? Because they plan on, according to my research, ruling the world from there. New World Order. This is where everybody gets microchipped. They control everything. Monitor everything. You can't even probably in the future have a child without permission. Change your job. Move to another area. I call it slavery. And of course they plan on a huge population reduction event. According to all the alternate news and books and stuff I've gone over. Some serious people in high places. Intelligence agencies, militaries, professors, all kinds of people have been exposing this stuff. We can all just look and see what's been going on in the world, knowing that in 1913, the Rothschilds and other high-level Illuminati Jewish types conspired with President Woodrow Wilson to create the Federal Reserve and take over the United States money supply. December! 2 or 3 days before Christmas, while everybody else was on holiday. And since they took over our money supply, they pretty much took over our nation. So they're loaning money to our own government to do this New World Order, and they're saying we the USA taxpayers are responsible for 13, 17, 40, 50 trillion dollars. so they could take over the world. And Henry Ford was trying to warn us in his books, and I've gone over those in my videos. So moving on here, the cornerstone of Western civilization, Jerusalem. As the cover design of the Encyclopaedia Judaica constantly reminds us, the prophet Isaiah said, "Learning shall come forth out of Zion." And this magnificent new work, the Encyclopedia, is a superb illustration of the eternal truth of this prophecy. Prophecy! I keep saying, this isn't me. It's this guy's words. Prophecy, last, right there. This man, the mayor of Jerusalem. Let's see what else they say. This is Keter Publishing, Kiret Moshe, from Avraham Herman. And I'm not reading it all, just my highlighted portion. I found this here for like $2 on abeusedbooks.com. A new Encyclopedia Judaica is long overdue. Both scholars and the general public very much need an objective and informative publication bringing contemporary light to all that has happened to Jews and Judaism up to and including present time. I suspect they're not going to tell everything, but they're going to try to paint it in a positive light. I mean, why for 2,000 plus years, 3,000, 4,000 years, were the Jewish people, wherever they went, why did they wear out their welcome and were usually run out of the country or the town or the city? From place to place all over the map. They call it a diaspora, dispersing them all over the world. And apparently they say it's a good thing. It has enabled them to take over many high positions all over the world. Like in the United States, you know, it's a disproportionate amount of Jewish people in Washington, D.C. and many other high places all over the country, in politics and business, to the rest of us. And of course we all know about the dumbing down of America and fluoride in the water and the educational system, all previously planned by the communists, created by the Bolsheviks and the Jewish people who took over. So you can say the Jewish people created the Freemasons and all those secret societies, and they created the communism, which planned on taking over the education system. If you watch my videos, which take you a while, you might come to some of the same conclusions. Both scholars and the general public very much need an objective and informative publication bringing contemporary light to all that has happened to Jews and Judaism up to and including present time. The volumes are not only crammed with important information, they are also beautifully composed and presented. The illustrations, both in color and in black and white, are in themselves works of art. And I'll agree to that. These books here will be quite interesting to look at over the years for me. Many have never been seen before except by a handful of fortunate art critics and archaeologists. So many of the pictures in these books, I agree. I've shown you 2 or 3. I'll show you more. But it is an immense collection, and a lot of the stuff in there doesn't throw positive light on the Jews, in my opinion. When you talk about mysticism, magic, and sacred names of God to perform magic, and their aims to rule the world, as it says here. The Encyclopaedia Judaica is a must for all scholars and laymen who share a common interest in the people who, from Old Testament times of the 20th century, have contributed so much to the moral and spiritual values of mankind. Arthur Goldberg. From the Old Testament times of the 20th century have contributed so much to the moral and spiritual values of mankind. I'm scratching my head thinking, well, wait a minute. Didn't Jesus overturn the money changers' tables and say, "Ye are of your father the serpent"? No wonder they want to destroy Christianity. And again, not all Jews, but I'm just saying, it should behoove the rest of us to at least become learned and also try to adopt a compassionate attitude towards all people. And pray to God that people will wake up and not want to enslave other people. So moving on in the book here, here's a first column of the Isaiah scroll of Qumran, Jerusalem. So here's some of the writing in the scroll, some of the stuff that's in the encyclopedias. And some of the topics, ancient versions, Arabic, Armenian, Egyptian, Greek, Latin. Some of the topics in the encyclopedias. So apparently this little synopsis magazine is just a sample of some of the pages in the encyclopedias. And as you can see, I've read the entire document and highlighted what I wanted to talk about. Taking the long road to China to get there with this story. So here we go, in the encyclopedia, as we all know, they're alphabetical. This particular page, 872, you can see on the top there. And it's the word Bible. This is obviously not 872 pages. So it's just samples of pages out of those encyclopedias. This is B. So Bible. So I read all this and analyzed it, and I'm going to share it here with this video. Secondly, again, I'm not reading it all, so bear with me and my commentary. Secondly, the Hebrew consonantal text, consonants, text, not always as mesoretically vocalized, was taken as basic, bear with me, and was corrected, so they were correcting the consonants and the vowels. Not only in the light of the Dead Sea Isaiah scroll and of ancient versions, but also in default of satisfactory versions, restoration by cautious immediation. Moving on, the New English Bible, sponsored jointly by the major non-Catholic churches of Great Britain, the New Testament appeared in 1961. The Old Testament, 1970. A novel feature is the association of a literary panel, proposed version, the aim being to produce a Bible in contemporary English that avoids both anarchism and transient neologisms, funny words, but the participating scholars, all Christians, were accorded ultimate freedom in matters of literary taste and theological dogma. So are they rewriting the Bible? Anglo-Jewish versions, remember this is a page called Bible in the Judaica Encyclopedia, Encyclopaedia Judaica. So they're talking about the Bible, educating themselves and everybody else about the Bible. Anglo-Jewish versions from the early 18th century, progressive angelicization of the Jewish settlers in England and America rendered first the Spanish and ultimately the Yiddish, the Jews that were imported into the United States after World War I, and were causing a lot of chaos and problems in the United States. They even had congressional hearings back then in 1918, 1920, 1921, called the Jewish problem. And if you look at Henry Ford's books, it says right on the front cover of the Dearborn Independent, the Jewish problem. So it says right here, again, this is just supporting things I've been talking about. They did have these the Yiddish translations inadequate for educational needs. The King James Version became current in spite of the Christianization tendency of some of its headlines to the prophets. The Pentateuch, I'm saying that wrong, with the Hafarat, published in London by David Levi, 1787, appears to be the King James Version, but without offending captions and with Jewish annotations. So they're making critical statements about the Christian Bible in this Encyclopaedia Judaica. And again, this is my interpretation. You don't have to have that same opinion. I'm just reading some words that jumped out at me and I highlighted. And these pages will be on different topics. They're samples from the pages in the encyclopedia. The Pentateuch, I'm going to have to learn how to say that right and find out more about what it is, published in 1962, has consequently met with substantial criticism from Orthodox Jewish circles. German, according to old tradition, Euphallus, who according to the Byzantine church historian Socrates, invented the Gothic alphabet for the purpose of his translation, wrote a complete version of the Bible, excluding only 1 and 2 kings because of the warlike disposition of the Goths. And now that I mentioned that, things come to my mind. These Ashkenazi Jews, who apparently come from the Khazaria area where the king adopted the Jewish religion for the whole kingdom, I should mention that the Khazarians, if I get the name right there, were a warlike people and were providing armies for many nations and countries all over Europe when they went to war. So these people, these Khazarians, had a warlike tendency from way back. FYI. And these are the people today who seemingly are trying to take over the world. So what I'm learning, the surviving fragments cover the biblical narrative from Adam to the destruction of Sodom. So they're admitting in here in the Encyclopaedia Judaica that I guess that Adam existed, Adam and Eve. Early in the 11th century, Nicanor Libero, a monk of St. Gallen, translated the Psalms and the Song of Songs, as well as the Book of Job, which has been lost. Subsequently, many other partial translations of the Bible appeared, mainly versions of the Pastor. So they're just trying to say, I guess in the Encyclopaedia Judaica, there are many versions of the Bible. Here's an interesting little highlighted gray thing. Genesis. So let's see what Genesis says. I didn't highlight or read this earlier. So here we go. When God began to create the heavens and the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, a first day. God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the water, that it may separate water from water." God made the expanse, and it separated the water which was below the expanse from the water which was above the expanse. So apparently in the water he created a big bubble. He called seas. Let's see, I missed a part here. And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters he called seas. And God saw that this was good, and God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, seed-bearing plants, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruits with the seed in it. And so it was. The earth brought forth vegetation, seed-bearing plants of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that this was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, a third day. God said, let there be light in the expanse of the day, to separate day from night. They shall serve as signs for the set times, the days and the years, and they shall serve as light in thee. Just thought that's interesting. So a lot of people today, 2016, December 10th, if you talk to them, they don't believe there's a God. So I suppose you can't convince them that there's demons or evil spirits or Satan or Lucifer or some Jewish Zionist people along with the Illuminati and a lot of other rich elites who want to control and enslave the people for their own demented, in my opinion, purposes of having power and money and other perverted control over the rest of us. Some more pictures here in this Encyclopaedia Judaica, apparently page 676. Some of the old scrolls and tablets and monuments. Some of the things that are covered in these volumes here. Hebrew grammar, Dead Sea Scrolls, Menorah, Masorah, pronunciations, Semitic languages. And here's some of the languages of the historic past. Which, interestingly enough, looks like some of those languages on UFO symbols and craft and stuff like that. Model of Jerusalem at the beginning of the revolt against Rome in 66 before Jesus. So they plan on rebuilding the temple for the third time, which is prophesied biblically now. So this is stuff people should not dismiss. These people are serious about planning it, as we're going to see on the many videos I will make from these encyclopedias. The Second Temple period, that's what it says there. Wow, I think I found a page I hadn't read yet. Can't believe I skipped one somehow. So I'll just move on to the next page. Go back to that. Again, another picture that's in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. Of course, you can't read that unless you can read Hebrew or whatever that is. Rabbinical literature. But I did do all this, so let me go over some of this. This is Genzith. If you can say that, good for you. Top word. But let me read what I highlighted. Obviously, I thought something was important here. That during a period of forced conversion, the scrolls of the law and holy books were hidden in a cave. So way back then, 2,000 years ago, 2,066 years ago, when they destroyed the Second Temple, during a period of forced conversion, these Jews, the scrolls of the law and holy books were hidden in a cave. In 1947, certain spiritual scrolls, books, and fragments were discovered in a cave at Island Fashka in the Judean wilderness and later in other caves in that vicinity. It is probable that the sectarians who lived there had hid the books when compelled to leave, see Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, there is some accusations by people that these conveniently discovered Dead Sea Scrolls and other things of late are forgeries. FYI. I mean, for me to imagine that these scrolls could survive 2,000 years in a cave is a little far-fetched. That's just me. When the cupboards and attics could take no more, the tattered pages, which because they contained the divine name of God, were known as Shemot, names, i.e. of God, were buried in the cemetery. So apparently if you can say these sacred divine names of God, they give you magical powers. It's important to know. Think about it. The day on which the Shemot were conveyed from the Genezith for burial in one of the caves on the slope of Mount Zion. That's what it says here, Mount Zion, where my picture is. I keep trying to say stuff. Mount Zion, my finger right there. This is what Zionism is, ruling the world from there. Was celebrated on the festive way in Jerusalem, even during the modern period. The participants in the ceremony would play musical instruments, sing, dance, and play games, facing one another with drawn swords in order to magnify the joyousness of the affair. There is evidence that a similar custom prevailed in other areas. Such gizonets existed in a great number of both Eastern and Western communities. Although they usually contained only worn-out remnants of books in daily use, such as the Pentateuch. Yes, I know I have to learn how to say that word. And the prayer book, rare or historically important books and documents were sometimes hidden among them. Remember, this is the Encyclopaedia Judaica, so if you can't believe this stuff, I don't know what you can believe. I said this would certainly be something you could point to as evidence of writing and thinking that's true, or they would want us to believe is true. In fact, the Cairo Gizoneth, probably some kind of document, had already been seen by Simon von Gerlding in 1753 and by Jacob Safar in 1864. They had not been allowed to examine its contents because of the local superstition which claimed that disaster would befall anyone who touched the sacred pages. Nevertheless, various leaves were occasionally extracted without permission and sold to visitors. Okay, moving on to top of page 406. Adler and others. In 1896, two Christian visitors brought some Hebrew fragments in Cairo, bought some, and on returning to England showed them to Secher, who recognized them as being from the Hebrew origin of the book of Ben Sire, which had been lost and was known only in its Greek translation. Toward the end of 1896, Secher traveled to Cairo, and after several months of strenuous effort, was able to extract from the Gizoneth about 1,000 pages, which he took to Cambridge. Researchers and bibliographers, researchers, were responsible for the discovery of another 100,000 pages, which were later deposited in large libraries throughout the world. The Cairo Gizoneth was found in the attic of the Urza synagogue, whose worshippers had preserved ancient Palestinian customs. Now, you read press releases like in the Jerusalem Post and even in newspaper articles here from routers in the United States and on the internet, and you'll see a lot of people saying that Palestinian never existed, never had a country. But you read these stuff out of the Encyclopaedia Judaica about its history, and they certainly called it ancient Palestinian customs. And now Google, I think, has been accused of taking Palestinian off the map. So Palestine did have this country for 100 years, thousands of years, in which the Mennonites, his son Abraham, and other scholars had taught the ancient Palestinian customs. This synagogue was built in 882 on the ruins of a Coptic church sold to Jews. Just reading stuff out of the encyclopedia and this little magazine synopsis. Things that just trigger things that show that evidence here that Palestinian had existed for thousands of years. The Cairo Genizeth brought to light literary treasures and historical documents, including most of the Hebrew Ben Sire, fragments of Aquila's Greek translation of the Bible, the Covenant of Damascus. And I know that's not interesting. I see these key words and it brings ideas to my mind. But apparently, Armageddon, the end of the world as we know it, is supposed to happen according to Revelation when Damascus falls. Damascus is, of course, in Syria, which is being attacked right now. And according to YouTube videos and other alternate news, Damascus is under attack right now. The oldest city on earth, apparently, Damascus. The Covenant of Damascus, stuff that they recovered. Ancient Palestinian, Babylonian, and Spanish documents. A large number of documents relating to the history of the Jews of Israel and Egypt from the time of the Islamic conquest until the First Crusade. So they admit there was crusades here, a period of which nothing had previously been known. Akhenazi, there they go with those Yiddish Jewish folks, writings, letters, and poem from the 13th and 15th centuries, 1200 to 1400, centuries of Judeo-German Yiddish. So the Akhenazis weren't actually Jews, they're, I guess, the Khazarians adopted it. And they got here the Principal Amorian of Palestinian Academics. So they got these charts and Talmud and Talmudic period. Got a lot to learn and a lot to talk about. So this other page is 252. And the word is Hiller on top in the Encyclopedia H. Let's see what letters I have. I've got R through S, L through J, J through I through J. Moving on, Hiller the Elder. The end of the 1st century BCE and the beginning of the 1st century CE, the greatest of the sages of the Second Temple period, the title Zaken, the Elder, indicates a person holding a position of honor and generally conferred on those who stood at the head of the community or were members of the Supreme Bet Din. Helen was a native of Babylonia and is sometimes referred to as the Hiller the Babylonian. And according to later tradition, was the Scion of the house of David. You pick up little tidbits of knowledge here when you read this stuff. The sons of Bethia, who headed the Sahendri, had forgotten the halakhic regulation as to whether the offering of the penchal, lamb, and I'm sure Jewish people are probably falling off the couch and say, Rick, you're saying it wrong. And there are a lot of good Jewish people out there who are opposed to this New World Order Zionist movement. These same folks who control the United Nations, by the way, responsible for, I'm sure, the sky spraying of chemicals in the sky, HARP transmitters, all kinds of weapons, microchipping children right now, planning for World War III, and probably some big event to bring about martial law all over Europe and the United States. You can go on videos on YouTube and alternate websites and see the movement of military vehicles and FEMA camps and lots of crazy things going on in the world these days. I thought it'd be interesting to read this stuff. Okay, Hitler the Babylonian, who had studied under Sheremet and Attilion, they sent for him and submitted the problem to him. Hitler replied that the paschal sacrifice took precedence over the Sabbath and proved his point by applying 3 hermeneutical rules. It'll take a while for me to learn all this stuff and make more sense of it. But if you're interested in learning and sharing, pay attention to these videos as I make them. It is stated that Hillel was appointed Nazi a century before the destruction of the temple and held office for 40 years, that is, until the year 11 before Christ, 10 CE. According to the source, he lived 120 years. It is recounted that on one occasion, during a dispute between Hillel and Shammai, a sword was embedded in the Bet Hashmedrash. And on that one day, Hillel sat humbly before Shammai as one of the students. That day, according to the Talmud, was as grievous for Israel as the day on which the golden calf was made. So I keep talking about the golden calf. They acknowledge here that the golden calf was made. So let me tell you that short story. You probably already know it. But anyways, when Moses was guiding the Hebrews away from Egypt onto their God-promised land, the land of Canaan, according to their books, he went up to the mountain to get, I guess, to talk to God. And he came down the mountain with 2 tablets, the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not bear false witness. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And of course, number 1 commandment is there shall be only one God. Anyways, if you want to know what the commandments say, you should look them up and print out a copy. Have it handy. You'll know you shouldn't worship idols. Take the day off on Sunday, which was made for man, not for God, so you could take a break. Anyways, it says here, the golden calf, when Moses came down the mountain with the 2 tablets, he had found that the Jews, the Hebrews, they didn't call them Jews back then, had collected all the gold amongst themselves and made a golden calf and were worshiping it, which was the religion of the Egyptians, the Pharaoh, in a drunken sexual orgy, all prohibited by laws of decency, I guess. And Moses was angry and smashed the tablets and was punishing the Hebrews and had to go back up to the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights to get new tablets. So as quick as Moses turned his back, the people turned away from God and went back to the religion of the captors, the Pharaoh, the Egyptians, the pagans, and were punished for it. And many other incidences happened why they destroyed the first temple, King Solomon's temple, as mentioned in the Freemasonic manuals to become a Master Mason. And as I've said before, if you take out the Jewish element in the Freemasonic books, and I'm not creating these sentences, I've learned them from other people, there would be nothing left mostly to these Freemasonic lodges and illumination and secret hand signs and swearing under threat of death not to divulge the secrets. So apparently the Freemasonic lodges and other secret societies are creations of these Zionist, Akhenazi, Illuminati type Lucifer satanic worshippers who turned from God and who were in conflict with apparently the good Jews who still believe in the Old Testament and the Bible and the 10 Commandments. So there's a fight in the Jewish camp. Just like here in the United States, they have us all fooled that we should belong to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, when it's all controlled by these Illuminati world order types. We're all being deceived on a regular basis. All right, moving on. He set before himself the principle of bringing men closer to the Torah, the Bible of the Jews. To this end, he scrupulously avoided anger and pedantry and was prepared to ready to reply to all questions, even those obviously calculated to vex him. This is Hitler's, this title of this page, this guy, Hitler, in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. Hitler's ethical religious teachings had been preserved in a series of proverbs. He who magnifies his name destroys it. He who does not increase his knowledge decreases it. He who does not study deserves to die. This is what he said. And he who makes worldly use of the crown of the Torah shall waste away. So if you use all this knowledge and magic for your personal gain, they waste away. All right, turning to another page in this book. I'm just trying to share some samples of stuff that's in these encyclopedias. Here's another document that was probably interpreted, translated. Here's some of the subjects. Adultery, adoption, admission, abortion, acquisition, bastard, bigamy, capital punishment, civil marriage, codification of law, crucifixion, divorce, dowry, fines, forgery. Got lots of topic here to look up in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. And laws and morals, legal fiction, imprisonment, husband and wife, orphan, penal law, personal, sexual offenses, slander, slavery, state of Israel, Jewish law. Page 630. I'm only reading my highlighted portion. I'm trying to get through this magazine on this video. Later on, I'll be doing articles out of the Encyclopaedia Judaica itself. And topics like the Kabbalah and other things ought to be quite interesting. Moving on here, codification of law is the page 630 in the Encyclopedia. The background to codification and its motivations is the realization of the need to eliminate the shortcomings stemming from diverse and universal judicial and historical phenomena, such as the proliferation of legal provisions scattered in different literary sources, the awkward and heterogeneous style of legal directives, and the gradual accumulation of conflicting legal norms within a particular legal system. Furthermore, the codification constitutes the authoritative source for locating any law forming part of the particular legal branch, its directives having the effect of abrogating any other provisions of the said branch of the law preceding the codification and inconsistent with it. Wow. The hope of the initiators of the great codification, beginning from the middle of the 18th century, the 1700s, such as the Prussian and Napoleonic codes, was that such codification would simplify the law and make it understandable and readily available to every citizen. And the title over here called the Jewish Law. Not even the Mennonites, who compiled the Mishnah Torah, like I said, they got a lot of things to study up on what they are. The greatest and most comprehensive Halakhic code of all, so I guess I should know what that is, if it's the greatest comprehensive Halakhic code of all, the Mishnah Torah, with the stated purpose that a person shall not need to have recourse to any other work in the world concerning any of the laws of Israel. That's important to read again. According to the Mishnah Torah, the greatest and most comprehensive Halakhic code of all was the stated purpose that a person shall not need to have recourse to any other work in the world concerning any of the laws of Israel. that a person shall first read the written law, and then this work, and learn therefrom all of the oral law, and shall not require to read any other work. So I'm reading that to say that these people don't need to pay attention to any other laws of any other nation, only these laws of Israel. Here's another little drawing in the book. Alright, next page. Hello! Well, it's another day. Monday. I'll show you around where I'm at taking this video today. Here in a park in Asheville, down by the river. French Broad River. Let's find new locations to do my videos. Found me a park bench to sit on to continue my review of the magazine or short synopsis book of the Encyclopaedia Judaica. I thought I'd start out today with that one page that I missed as I was moving forward through this book. Page 238, the title of the page is Bar Korba. They got a picture here, a model of Jerusalem at the beginning of the revolt against Rome in 66 BC, before Jesus was born, based on archaeological and topographical data. So it should be evident to anybody who pays attention to archaeology that they are preparing to and are in process trying to rebuild the King Solomon's temple. The one mentioned in the Freemasonic books, the manuals and handbooks and all the textbooks, which apparently Hiram Abiff was killed by 3 ruffians, according to the Freemasonic literature. So the Second Temple period has topics here, Bar Kokhba, however you say that word, Delphi, Edom, Greece, High Priest, I'm not reading everything, Roman Emperors, Temple Second, Zealots. And here's the topic on the page I'm going to read about. Now, all I'm trying to do here, going over this synopsis of the, or a description of the Encyclopaedia Judaica, which I purchased 3 books, as I said earlier in this video. 4 books, sorry. So let me just get on reading so I can try to finish up this video. The subjugation was associated with massacres and religious persecution, the sale of Jews into slavery, and the uprooting of the people from the soil. The sale of Jews into slavery. And personally, if I look back at my history, I can remember when the Roman Empire pretty much enslaved everybody. Europeans, people up in Ireland. And then, of course, there was the uprooting of all the black people from Africa to the islands off the coast of Central America, and all the black people brought from Africa to the United States, and I'm sure elsewhere all over the world for slavery. So I don't think the Jews were ever the only ones in slavery. Again, just putting my 2 cents in, reading this. Thus ended the final and perhaps greatest war of liberation of the Jews in ancient times. The independence of Judea had come to an end. The Judean Desert documents. The finds dating from the days of Bar Kokhba, Kokhba, I guess, and brought to light in the Judean desert in 1952-1961. Additional facts of great importance for the understanding of the social and economic conditions prevailing during the Bar Kokhba War from 132 to 135 CE. The first documents were found in 1952 in the Wadi Marubai at 11 miles southwest of Quran. Trying to get my video a little bit brighter, visible. Anyways, I'm reading more here. The letters and economic documents in Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, uncovered in the cave testify to the economic position in southern Judea. On the eve of the revolt and at the height of the war, on the other documents, their language, literary form, historical significance, see Dead Sea Scrolls. So I don't think too many people will deny that there have been wars throughout history. All over the world, last few thousand years. Moving on, I'm only reading my highlighted portions. Alright, moving on. In a letter to Joshua Golgolah, one of his army commanders, Ben Kokhba refers to the Gaim, who are to be protected, and sternly reminded his men of this, threatened them with irons. I call heaven to witness against me, that I shall put your feet in irons. So he calls heaven to witness against me. So apparently he believes in heaven. And I know now in the world I live in, when you talk to a lot of people about conspiracy theories or God or Jesus or anything, and they say they don't believe. A lot of people don't believe in God, don't believe in demons, don't believe in hell, and they're buying the propaganda to do as thou wilt, Aleister Crowley's Luciferic doctrine, as given to him by some interdimensional beings like Lamb, who happen to look like gray aliens. You can look this up. It's in my previous videos. So when I read these things, like I keep saying, I'm just trying to throw in my 2 cents, which does not have to be what you believe or your interpretation of this. But it is in these books, and in this Jewish Encyclopaedia Judaica, 1971. A land lease found in the cave of the letters of Nahal, Havar, in the Judean desert. So apparently back then, thousands of years ago, they had land leases. Who would have thought that? Written in Hebrew on papyrus, it deals with lands leased to the Bar Kokhba administration. Jerusalem Israel Museum, Shrine of the Book. Moving on here. In another letter to Joshua, Ben Kokhba orders him to offer hospitality to the Sabbath to men who are bringing wheat to the camp, and to provide them with accommodations until after the Sabbath. Moving on, the confiscation of property and the supervision of the men and the mobilization of the men of the Toka on the border of the Judean desert. His language is harsh, and he frequently threatens them with punishment if they fail to carry out his orders. And if you do not do this, you will be punished. Moving on. To the commanders in the rear and the population of the inhabited area of the desert, with whom he was incensed for having failed to supply food as commanded by Nanasi, who had neglected their duty. Bar Kokhba used stern language. You are living well, eating and drinking off the property of the house of Israel, and care nothing about your brethren. in an Aramaic letter to Judah Masana of Kairat, and I'm sure I'm saying these wrong, Arava, Ben Kakba orders Judah to supply him with the 4 species for tabernacles, and apparently reminds him of about separations of tithe. I guess paying a small percentage of whatever you do to the church, tithes. Bar Kokhba's men, even under danger, strictly and quite naturally kept the commandments of Judaism, such as the sanctity of the Sabbath, the laws of the priestly and Levitical dues, and the fullest observance of festivals. The Nasi was concerned about supply problems, food for his camp, and matters pertaining to real estate. Apparently the land belonged normally to the Nazi, it being clearly stated in the lease. You have leased the ground from Simon, the Nasi of Israel. In his name, the lessors laid down the quota of grain that was required. So that's interesting that they would have these documents dug up thousands of years ago that describe the leased lands. You suppose they're trying to get some kind of legal precedent for ownership of the land. And again, I want to remind myself and anyone watching this video that all I'm trying to do is read some of what's in the synopsis of the 16-book Encyclopaedia Judaica. And then when I see some stuff that jumps out at me, like for example, when we went over the Bible earlier, I said I couldn't remember how to say that word and what it meant. The Pentecox. Still can't probably pronounce it. Pentoc. But anyways, what it means is apparently it says here that the Pentoc, which was the first 5 books of the Christian Bible, with Hararat, published in London by David Levi, apparently a Jewish person, 1787, appears to be the King James Version, but without offending captions and with the Jewish annotations. So they're trying to say that this David Levi actually wrote the King James Version of the Bible. And if he did, what does that say about in the Bible when you read Matthew and the other prophets, or I should say disciples, or people who brought forth the information for the books in the Bible, the Christian language, the Christian religion, about the story about the Hebrews, the Jews back then, the Pharisees, the ones who were in charge of the temple, being jealous and angry with Jesus and having Pontius Pilate crucify him. And then when Pontius Pilate, the Roman leader, said, "Whoa, I'm paraphrasing, I don't want this on my head," the crowd of Jews in the audience said, "Let it be on our heads and our children's heads." So, who wrote the Bible? Was it this Levi guy wrote it? Was it interpreted by the disciples? How many versions are there of the Bible? And this makes a lot of people maybe revolt against Christianity and the Bible or any other religions. But regrettably, I believe that's probably the purpose for the propaganda. Because if you do any study at all on history, we'll know there are spiritual beings, angels, demons, etc. throughout history. And it appears there's plenty of evidence to prove that we are all spiritual beings in these biological bodies. So there is a part of this story, apparently, that, following the 10 Commandments and being a decent person, treating others how you want to be treated, is one philosophy, which I call the Christian philosophy, and I'm sure other religions have that in their good side. And then there's, of course, the Aleister Crowley, do as thou wilt, serving yourself and your own people, wanting to enslave the rest of us, which is what I believe what is the Zionist philosophy, and the people who control all of our politicians, whether in the United States, the Republican Party. Back during the Reagan administration, there was a big story and conspiracy, whatever you want to call it, exposure of a sex scandal, even with children. And now we have one supposedly going on with the John Podesta, something called Pizzagate. And much more to it if you go watch David Icke and Pizzagate and some of the other videos. And a lot of people are cautioning everybody not to repeat just what they hear, but to investigate it thoroughly, which I recommend also. But, you know, when you talk about Arizona Wilder or Kathy O'Brien and so many others who were caught in these situations of child trafficking, Bohemian Grove sacrificing even little babies, even if the Bohemian Grove members, our presidents and other leaders, say it was an effigy, a doll baby they were throwing in the fire. The hell does it matter if they, what? You shouldn't be throwing babies in a fire, whether they're dolls or real. And you shouldn't be molesting and sexually assaulting women, men, and children. So that would be the other religions, what I'm trying to say. The service to self or service to others. And apparently, they're good Jewish people, the Orthodox, or like Rabbi Marvin Antelman in my books was trying to, and did in his books, expose these Sabbatan, Frankist, Illuminati, satanic type people, Jewish people, who turn to the dark side. And have a philosophy, I guess, that came also from Aleister Crowley and so many others in these secret societies. I know it's a lot to say and think about, but it appears to be real. So anyways, when I read this stuff, I like to just see what pertains to it and how they think in here. Service to self or service to others. An astronomer holding an astrobal, discussing the laws of nature and the attributes of God with his fellow philosophers. Okay, so in the Encyclopaedia Judaica, the Jewish encyclopedia, they again here mention there's a God. My point. To all those people who want to say there is no God. And I guess this guy wrote a book called The Guide to the Perplexed. 1348. So this goes back hundreds and thousands of years. So the topic on this page 1430, is Bubba Martin. And I'm not trying to go off tangent here, helter-skelter topics or whatever. This is a synopsis of a dozen or so pages from the Judaica Encyclopedia. So I'm just going over them, reading what's in these pages. They must have selected these pages for some reason. This one's Bubba Martin, top of the page, Bubba Martin. And the first topic is Breziny. In 1656, 40 Jewish families were massacred in Breziny by Polish soldiers. So one has to wonder why the Polish people were massacring the Jewish families. The Holocaust period in 1939, before World War II, there was still a Jewish majority in Breziny, 6,850, out of a total population of 13,000. During the Nazi occupation, Jewish property was confiscated and pillaged. People in the streets or in their homes were kidnapped for forced labor, and the community leaders and members of the liberal professions were deported to unknown destinations. In February 1940, a ghetto was established and included over 6,000 inhabitants. In 1942, Purim, there was a public execution of 10 Jews. The final liquidation of the ghetto took place on May 19 to 20, 1942, in the middle of World War II. Elderly Jews were sent to Kelmon extermination camps and others to the Lodz ghetto. So I do have, and went over in previous videos, Text Mars books and other books that the Holocaust wasn't what the Jewish people are saying it's to be. It's a created propaganda piece, so it's said in these books. I believe Jews were probably rounded up, as well as a lot of other people during the World War. I think in the United States here, we rounded up all the Japanese people. And if I remember my history that I've been going over lately, in the last 12 years, that in World War I, Germany was winning the war, and the Jewish people from New York and other powerful places, banksters, made a deal with Britain that if they gave them money and got America into the war, then Britain would support annexing the Palestinians' land so that the Zionists, Rothschilds and banksters, could create the state of Israel, called the Balfour Agreement. So I didn't notice that here when they're saying this, that during World War I, the Jews were many Jews, most of them, were wealthy and happy in Germany and thought they had gone to heaven, their land of Eden. And then they didn't probably, from what my research, weren't particularly happy to go along with the New York Zionist Jewish people to turn traitor on Germany. But during the Versailles hearings at the end of World War I, where they were prosecuting war criminals, in the trials, the hearings, it came out about the betrayal the Jews did to Germany during World War I. So now Germany lost the war, and apparently, according to a lot of the material I have read, all the elite, many of the elites and conspirators that brought about this betrayal of the Jews in Germany flocked over there to Europe to kind of control the Versailles hearings, treaties, war criminal trials, and created such a financial burden and other legal criminal laws and persecution of the people of Germany during World War I that it was beyond belief horrific. And don't you think that all the German people knew this at World War II? So yeah, like the United States, when they rounded up the Japanese, I suppose, in Germany they rounded up a bunch of people. But I don't think they were, in my opinion, according to some scientific evidence and books I've gone over, that they were exterminating people just to do genocide. Just my opinion. I'm reading this thing, but I'm also thinking with other things I know, which anybody should do when they read books. Moving on, Martin Bubba. 1878 to 1965, philosopher and theologian, Zionist thinker and leader. Here we go. 1878, Zionist thinker. So like Albert Pike, who is the highest leader of all for the southern jurisdiction of Freemasons in the United States during the war between the North and the South, in the middle 1850s, 1860s. Not that long ago, if you think about it. Only 50 years, 40 years till 1900, 1901. But he wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in Italy and said there would be 3 world wars required to bring about the New World Order. So it seems that we can conclude the Freemasons, along with the Illuminati and many other secret societies and cults, including the Zionist Jewish folks, have taken the long road to prepare for this New Age and New World Order, which clearly, if we follow what's going on these days, is clearly Luciferic and Satanic. Trying to put up that statue of the devil Baal with the horns and all, and a couple children looking up at him in awe in Oklahoma, the state capitol building, and then they nixed that, so they sent it to Detroit, Then they had a big unveiling in the streets there, and all the people came dressed up as freaks and witches and demons. Crazy, you think? Anyway, so it says right here, reason I mention all that, I get off on a tangent. Philosopher and theologian, Zionist thinker and leader, 1878. So, 20-something years. This guy was around to 1965, so wherever he picked up his Zionist thinking, it was way back there. But Albert Pike had the New World Order back in the 1850s and 60s and 70s and 80s. All right, Solomon Buba, the noted Midrash scholar from 1896, he studied at the universities of Vienna, Leipzig, and Zurich, and finally at the University of Berlin, where he was a pupil in the philosophies of the philosophers Wilhelm Dilthey and George Simmel. Having joined the Zionist movement in 1898, here we go again. Nothing is new. They had to have World War I and World War II, and they're going to have World War III to pull off this Zionist movement, ruling the world from Zion and bringing about the New Age and the New World Order and microchipping everybody by these satanic, Lucifer, demonic worshippers. Just like the Christian Bible says. In Revelation, the last book. It's right here in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. He was a delegate of the Third Zionist Congress in 1899. So 10 years before 1900, 30 years before World War I, they got a Third Zionist Congress going. So if anybody doesn't think this is planned, it's in the Encyclopaedia Judaica, where he spoke on behalf of the Propaganda Committee. It says it right here, Propaganda Committee. And all the stuff we get in the news right now, they talk about fake news. The fake news is coming from our governments and the media, who are owned by the Illuminati and Zionist and elitist. Poor Syrians over there are being massacred even today. But the United States people at large aren't aware of the real truth. Propaganda Committee, it says it here. In this speech, which bore the influences of modern Hebrew, so we got Zionist propaganda and Hebrew all mixed in one, so what are we supposed to think? And Yiddish writers, notably Adha, Aham, Buba emphasized the importance of education as opposed to a program of propaganda. In 1901, and I might point out, education also means these false flag terror events, which they're trying to educate us that guns aren't needed, and to, I guess at some point when they outlaw everyone from owning guns, so they have to create these false flags. They're educating us, so they call it, because we don't know better. So they create these fake bombings and shootings and all this propaganda. All right, in 1901, he was appointed editor of the Central Weekly, organ of the Zionist movement. There's a Zionist movement here, Die Welt, in which he emphasized the need for a new Jewish cultural creativity. The Legend of Baal Shem, 1955, this is one of the books he wrote. Deeply stirred by the religious message of Hashadish, he considered it his duty to convey that message to the world. Among the books he later wrote on Hashadish are Gog and Magog. That's a kind of popular book. In 1941, For the Sake of Heaven. In 1909, Buber resumed an active role in public affairs. He delivered 3 addresses to the Prague Student Organization. So we got stuff going on in 1880, 1890, 1901, 1909. This preparing for this New World Order, Zionist movement, world revolution, which everybody will be deceived. Nobody will know who's really orchestrating it, the puppet master, the people who control the Republican Party, and the same people who control the Democratic Party. And all these elites are into pedophilia and child abuse and other sexual decadent activities, as well as stealing tons of wealth from the rest of the peoples. But they'll get their due. There is a God. I feel confident about that. Nobody gets off planet Earth alive. All right, which had a great influence on Jewish youth. This guy doing these public speakings, Buba. In Central Europe, people are stirring up the mind even back then. Jewish youth. Jewish youth, that's what it says here, in Central Europe, and also marked a turning point in Buba's own intellectual activity. With the outbreak of World War I, Buba founded in Berlin during World War I. Remember, this war had nothing to do with the Jews. It was between England and Germany, because Germany was prospering and England was suffering. They were on the industrial decline. Germany was on the industrial incline. So that had to be nixed by England, the United Kingdom. It's that old saying, the kingdom is so large the sun never sets on it. Well, the name alone, United Kingdom, UK. Not to be outdone, the German Empire. They wanted to expand for more room for their people and industrialization and growth. And here we have in the United States a huge hand, or being controlled by these Zionist Illuminati organizations, trying to build this new world order. And right now, the American people, as well over in Europe, the European people, are the so-called enemy of these new world order folks, as even the Pope calls for, or many others, saying that the nationalists, the people who love their country, are now the enemy, opposing the New World unification of everything. And who's going to control it? The same people who caused World War I and World War II and so many other wars. So we shouldn't let these people be in control. But will the people open up their minds and their eyes and see and hear? With the outbreak of World War I, Buba founded in Berlin the Jewish National Committee, which worked throughout the war on behalf of the Jews in Eastern European countries under German occupation. So these people were allowed to do this during World War I. And on behalf of the Yishuv in Palestine. So they were saying back here during World War I, that country now called Israel was called Palestine. In 1916, he founded the monthly Der Jude, which for 8 years was the most important organ of the Jewish Renaissance movement in Central Europe. In the spring of 1920, at the convention of the Haupol, or the Zion, doing the best I can with these words, in Prague, Buba defined his Zionist socialist, now we're connecting the socialist, which is communism, by the way, with Zionist. Its words are right here. I don't have to make this up. Right where my finger is. People doubt this stuff. Position and his adherence to utopian socialism. It's right here. I went over the book called The Jewish Utopia. It says utopian. Gotta find my place here. Utopian socialism, in an address which reflected his affinity to Arahan David Gordon and Gustav Ladiar. Buba envisioned the creation of a German Schaffen in Palestine, German Schaffen, whatever that means, communities in which people would live together in direct relationships direct personal relationship. During the years which followed World War I, Buber became the spokesman for what he called the Hebrew humanism, according to which Zionism, described as the holy way. There was another thing. Look at these words I'm catching. Zionism described as the holy way. A notion explained in Der Hegel Weg, 1919, was different from other nationalistic movements. Buber also emphasized that Zionism should address itself also to the needs of the Arabs back in 1919, now since 9/11, 2001, when they toppled the two Twin Towers, or I should say, had explosives, had them free fall, including Building 7, which was never hit by a plane. So when they created that false flag, they've pretty much been slaughtering the Arabs since 2001 till 2016, and it's still going on today. But back then, he said the Zionism should also address itself to the needs of the Arabs, and in a proposal to the Zionist Congress in 1921, stated that the Jewish people proclaims its desire to live in peace and brotherhood with the Arab people and to develop the common homeland into a republic for both peoples will have the possibility of free development. So personally, I think it's too bad that didn't happen. Moving on here, here's a drawing on the next page. Perspective diagram of the world of the 10 Sephiroth, composed of the initial letters of the name of each Sephiroth, and the first Sephiroth on the outer edge and the last in the center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you count in on this labyrinth, you count in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Apparently, each one of those lines is a name of the 10 Sephiroth, some kind of religious pathway to God, and apparently there's two sides, a good side and an evil side. Anyways, underneath that is the word mysticism, as you can see here. So what is mysticism? And some of the other topics are commandments, reasons for, emanation, Kabbalah, meditation. Kabbalah is right over meditation. You don't think the two are connected? Yes, they are. Messiah, Providence, Sephiroth, Worlds 4, Zohar. So I've got a lot to continue to read and study to make clear what this mysticism stuff means. Why have they replaced the cross and other Christian symbols, and we don't say Merry Christmas anymore? They don't want you to in the school system or anywhere else. But now they have the menorah, the 7 candlestick sacred symbol to the Jews. There's something going on, and they're very deceptive. They don't tell us what's going on. But anyways, interestingly enough, you don't think it's sacred? Look at this. You can see the 7 candlestick thing here. You can see it here, 2 of them, 1, 2. Here, the 7 candlestick menorah. Here, part of the 7 step. Here, again. Here, again. See the 2 7 candlesticks here under the lion? 1, 2. So these are in the museums over there in Jerusalem. So what is this menorah? What does it mean? I intend to get to the bottom of it. Anyways, got some more interesting pictures here. And another symbol I notice a lot is the crown. And other symbols I've noticed a lot on Masonic temples. So here you can see the crown, right here. And then this symbol with the star on the buildings in the United States. So when I study this, I really like to get at the symbols. What does this stuff mean? And here's another interesting drawing that's in this Encyclopaedia Judaica. So for me buying 4 of those huge, heavy volumes for $20, including shipping, and to have all these drawings inside of those books, promised this to be an exciting investigation for me. But look at this one. I mean, I think a guy could spend quite a while trying to figure out what all that means. It means something. Good thing I have a desire to learn this stuff. Hello, I'm back. It's Tuesday, December 13th. I want to continue the video on this book. Only 52 pages, so it looks like I'm only going to do about half of it for this first video. I'm trying to go through it with a fine-tooth comb because I think it's important. The Encyclopaedia Judaica. Here's some cool pictures, something called a cedar dish. Guess I'll have to look into that. I grew up Catholic. And some interesting pictures and designs and clothing and people of the Jewish community. 1673, 19th century, 1841. So that's a cedar dish plate. Got some neat images on it. More dishes. And some of the clothing of these people over the years. These Jewish people in these pictures seem to remind me of the of gypsies. Just what comes to my mind. Then we have another page here, page 30 or something. Notice these wedding rings. They got little houses on these wedding rings. And the 6-pointed star and the pyramid and that one square type thing right there. And other artifacts. So there can be no doubt that these Encyclopaedia Judaica volumes, I just found 2 more today, so that'll be a total of 6 out of the 16 I have. I think the ones I bought today, volume 1 and 2, were like $3.75 each, with free shipping, and they're quite heavy. Some pictures, I guess, of plants. In Palestine, now called Israel, in the desert. So it's been interesting going over this document. And some stamps issued to mark the 7th International Congress at Haipoli, and the Olympics held in Israel. Just stuff that's in these books. And we have a new topic here, page 754, of the Judaica Encyclopedia, not this book. Under the word golem, as you can see on the top here, but before we get to that, there's something I highlighted. Goldziher also made valuable contributions to Jewish scholarship. At the age of 12, he published Saya Hashak Yazhak. At the age of 12. An essay on the Jewish prayers at the age of 12. Arab Jewish philosopher and Bible commentator Tehun Yarushami. He wrote for Hungarian and German Jewish periodicals and in various Festschriften on problems of Jewish scholarship, in particular about the relation between Islam and Judaism, and on Muslim criticism of the Pentateuch, the Talmud, and the people of the book in general. So this word golem, I'm finally getting to it, is on this bottom paragraph. So remember, I'm reading from the synopsis here of the Jewish Encyclopaedia Judaica. And there should be some valuable information here, plus my 2 cents. And I do appreciate people watching this video, realizing that it may be a little mixed up here at home and out in the weather and the wind blowing and the noise. I'm trying to get to establish a new rhythm in my video making and explore different venues, places out there to do it. And I found this park over here on beside the river, the French Broad River. And I get to see people running back and forth and dogs and all that stuff. Kind of cool. And of course the wind and the cold temperature, a little nippy out here today. So on this 105th in the series, which promises to include many videos as I go over these different subjects in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. But let's get to golem. This ought to be interesting. A creature, golem, a creature, particularly a human being made in an artificial way by virtue of a magic act. Alright, so this is in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. Should we believe this? Through the use of holy names. Magic? Witchcraft? What might this have to do with gray aliens, reptilians, and other UFO alien subjects out there on the YouTube world and in alternate media and books and magazines and sci-fi TV shows? Golem, a creature, particularly a human being made in an artificial way by virtue of a magic act. Through the use of the holy names of God, I suppose. The idea that it is possible to create living beings in this manner is widespread in the magic of many peoples. Wow. Especially well known are the idols and the images to which the ancients claim to have given the power of speech. Wow. Isn't the second commandment from Moses that God gave to Moses? Thou shalt not worship idols. So this idol thing goes way back, but apparently they can give them the ability to speak. Phone ringeth. Gotta pay attention to my job so I can make some money. Back to the book here. The idea that it is possible to create living beings in this manner is widespread in the magic of many peoples. Especially well known are the idols and images to which the ancients claimed to have given the power of speech. Especially well known are the idols and images to which the ancients claimed, that's what I just said. Among the Greeks and Arabs, these activities are sometimes connected with astrological speculations related to the possibility of drawing the spirituality of the stars to lower beings, see astrology in the encyclopedia. The development of the idea of the golem in Judaism, however, is remote from astrology. It is connected rather to the magical exogenesis of the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation. So the Sefer is part of this Kabbalah, witchcraft magic, book of creation, with the ideas of the creative power of speech and of the letters. Now, I'm going to work on this noise thing around me. Moved a little further down the river to try to avoid the bridge noise. Alright, the word golem appears only once in the Bible, and from it originated the Talmudic usage of the term, something unformed and imperfect. In philosophic usage, it is matter without form. Adam is called golem, meaning body without soul. So God created Adam, and in the Talmudic legend concerning the first 12 hours of his existence, however, even in this state, he was accorded a version of all the generations to come. I'm reading without my glasses. Guess my eyes aren't that bad. However, even in this state, he was accorded a vision of all the generations to come. As if there were in the golem a hidden power to grasp or see, bound up with the element of earth from which he was taken. According to the Encyclopaedia Judaica, Adam and Eve, the first two created beings, I guess there's some trains connecting behind me and the tracks across the river. Anyways, moving back to this book here, it is similarly told that two Amorian busied themselves on the eye of every Sabbath, and with the Sefer Yetzirah, or in another version, the whole Hiliholt Yetzirah, and made a calf for themselves and ate it. So they used this magic to create a calf, baby cow, and eat it. So what do we know about magic? Again, what might this have to do with gray aliens and reptilians and witchcraft and all this satanic symbolism we see everywhere, and the destruction, attempted destruction, for the last 100 years, of Christianity and trying to discredit Jesus and all that? Just adding my 2 cents here when I'm reading this in the Encyclopaedia Judaica. They are connected apparently with the belief in the creative power of the letters of the name of God and the letters of the Torah in general. There is disagreement as to whether the Sefer Yetzirah or Hilhot Yetzirah mentioned in the Talmud is the same book called by these two titles which we now possess. Most of this book is of speculative nature, but its affinity to the magical ideas concerning creation by means of letters is obvious. Oh my. The various transformations and combinations of letters constitute a mysterious knowledge of the inwardness of creation. During the Middle Ages, Sefer Yetzirah was interpreted in some circles in France and Germany as a guide to magical usage. So what do we know about this? And this is in the Encyclopaedia Judaica for educational purposes, as we have heard said at the beginning of this video by famous people who were congratulating the encyclopedia being published in 1971 and subsequent editions, 1972, 74, 75. And they want all the young Jewish people to Study and read this. There, the legends of the Talmud were interpreted in a new way at the conclusion of profound study of the mysteries of the Sefer Yetzirah. On the construction of the cosmos, the sages, as did Abraham on the patriarch, acquired the power to create living beings, but the purpose of such creation was purely symbolic and contemplative. Now remember, the Freemasonic organization, the lodges, Scottish Rite, York Rite, etc., and organization like the Skull and Bones, John Kerry, George Bush. You know, you read those lodge manuals and other educational materials, and they have to swear under threat of death, having their throat cut, etc., not to divulge the secrets going on in those lodges. And they talk about King Solomon's temple and a Biff being killed and by 3 ruffians. All these teachings of the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. So it's fundamentally based on Judaism, on King Solomon's temple. And King Solomon himself had a 6-pointed magic ring, like you just saw on the clothes of those people and images I just showed you in this video. And his 6-pointed magic ring, he could call forth demons from the other side or some other dimension. And that's where he got his power to rule, with the assistance of demons. And today we have a lot of this sex magic. These famous politicians and Hollywood people and many others involved in so-called things like Pizzagate and the Franklin cover-up, and Kathy O'Brien being abducted and her child raised to be an Illuminati sex slave. Arizona Wilder with David Icke, same thing. A lot of insiders, and you can go look on the internet or on my website, rickmiracle.com, and see a lot of whistleblowers talking about this. The Bohemian Grove, where Alex Jones snuck in and video it. They threw a baby in a fire. They're doing all this magic to please these demons. Might be important for us to know this, do you think? Might explain a lot of the weird, crazy, insane things going on in the world right now. Why is the all-seeing eye on the U.S. $1 bill? On federal buildings? Gargoyles downtown in the cities on your top of buildings, like where I live, and other strange creatures everywhere on the older buildings. So do you believe in magic? Or do you believe in fantastic civilizations on faraway planets coming to Earths and spying on us, abducting people, performing experiments on them? I'm going to be doing some more videos on the UFO topic. I'm going to get to the bottom of this reality, Freemasonry and Satanism, and my book reviews. From these late legends, they're developed among the Hasidic Ashkenazi Jews in the 12th and 13th centuries, the 1100s to 1200s. The idea of the creation of a golem, these creatures, as a mystical ritual, which was used apparently to symbolize the level of their achievement at the conclusion of their studies. In this circle, the term golem has, for the first time, the fixed meaning indicating such a creature. Those who took part in the act of creation took earth from virgin soil. Those who took part in the act of creation. I thought God created mankind. Took earth from virgin soil, so they grabbed up some dirt from the ground, and made a golem out of it. So that would be the first man, Adam, they said above here. Or, according to another source, they buried that golem in the soil, so they buried that magical created creature in the soil. I'm reminded of Helena Blavatsky, one of the creators of the Theosophist Society, and her book on magic, The Magic Eyes. I think I made a video on that. We'll be going over that again, those materials. But let's get back to the golem here. These creatures made from dirt with magic was saying these sacred names of God or something. And walked around the golem as in a dance, combining the alphabetic letters and the secret name of God. That's what it says here. Pause your computer, read that whole paragraph. I'm not making this up. Secret name of God in accordance with the detailed sets of instructions. Sounds like magic. Several of which have been preserved. So are these people in the Kabbalah, in the occult, into witchcraft, in the Illuminati, in the Freemasonic lodges, and all the other secret societies apparently abducting people, sacrificing people, sex with children, perverted, decadent sex like orgies and all that, all in secret, and a lot of it's coming out in the open these days. And now the media is saying they need to come down with legislation and target people publishing fake news. I guess there's nothing fake about what I'm reading in this document, which was taken out of the Encyclopaedia Judaica, page 754. As a result of this act of combination, the golem arose and lived. And when they walked in the opposite direction and said the same combination of letters in reverse order, the vitality of the golem was nullified, and he sank or fell. Wow. According to other legends, the word emet, truth, the seal of the Holy One, was written on his forehead. All right, moving on this book. Here's a couple of pictures. Well, a picture with a couple creatures on it. In the Encyclopaedia Judaica, what do we got? A kind of unicorn character there. And then this other character with horns. Confronting of a ram and a unicorn. Medieval Hebrew literature. These are some of the topics, I guess, in the Judaica Encyclopedia. Ethical literature, fable, fiction, heliography, humor and parody, Judah Halevi. So the next word is Paiute. And I think I'm going to just not do that right now, but skip to 2 more pages and end this video so I can make another. I've been talking about the menorah, the 7 candlestick symbol, which apparently is some kind of religious sacred symbol. I don't know if I want to call it religion, more like occult, magic, mysticism, witchcraft. Menorah by Bino Eckhart, presented to the Israel Kisnet, that would be their Congress, in Jerusalem by the British Parliament, 1956. The relic depicts the history of the Jewish people. Now, I remember when I went shopping at a most popular, one of the most popular one out there, electronic TV, computer stores that we all go to, instead of any symbols for Christmas and Jesus and all that, like I used to see, there was this thing on the front door with the words Happy Holidays. So Christmas time and New Year's are also significant holidays for the Jewish people. Not to be undone here by December 21st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, days before Christmas, the winter solstice, which is a witchcraft holiday. Coincidence is that. The witchcraft holiday, the solstice, is also the same time when they have the Jewish holidays, and when they have designated the people back in around 400 years after Jesus, the Council of Nicene, however you say that, when Rome adopted the Christian religion and they had a big meeting with all these people, and negotiated a deal what would be in the Christian religion textbooks. So they were mixing back then the pagan religion with the Christian religion. And of course the pagan religion was many gods, and in the Bible it says there shall be only one God in the Ten Commandments. And not to worship idols. So there is something going on we all should know. But anyways, when I went shopping and I saw Happy Holidays and this symbol on one of the most famous computer, TV, all kinds of other stuff store you've gone to, I've gone to, I said to myself, what is going on here? Where's Merry Christmas? I didn't see that anywhere, but I saw this. Can't overemphasize it. There is a switcheroo coming. It's probably already taken place. Now, I've also mentioned something else that's in this Encyclopaedia Judaica little magazine synopsis, guide, whatever you want to call it. They selected some pages. I'm surprised they selected what I'm going to show you next. But I've mentioned it in numerous videos, and there are videos on YouTube. But for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and I'm going to show this in future videos, wherever the Jewish people migrated to all over Europe, south, west, east, north, and a lot of times, at least 92 according to some videos on YouTube, I've acquired some more books on the topic, but they were run out of town, or they were burned at the stake, or they were imprisoned, because apparently part of their sacrificial rituals, mysticism, magic, stuff I'm reading about in this Encyclopaedia Judaica magazine, synopsis, whatever, guide, they were sacrificing people, but in a particular way that was completely horrific. They would abduct a little boy. There were court hearings, there were trials. These people were convicted. This is not hearsay. And it's in this magazine, so of course it's not hearsay. But they call it the blood libel. And what they would do is they would take this little boy and they would string him up or hold him up, and they would take these needles or pins or nails and they would punch holes in the kid all over him. In his buttocks, in his legs, in his stomach, in his neck, and everywhere. And they would have a bucket underneath the little boy, little Christian boy, little non-Jewish boy, whatever. And then, of course, they would drink the blood, and it would empower them in some kind of magical witchcraft, put them in some kind of trance and state, supposedly, I guess, so they could communicate or see on the other side. Like in that video I went over with Carlos Castienda, the separate reality. You can look that up on my Freemasonry and Satanism. I made a couple of videos on Carlos Castienda's books, A Separate Reality. And they would take the peyote or the mushrooms or other drugs, and this is all over the world with shamans and all this. So there's nothing new about altering the state of mind or your body, changing the frequency, the harmonic, and allowing you to have a vision of some other reality. Witchcraft. So the Jews were caught doing this all over Europe. Do they do it all over the world? We know the Bohemian Grove, to throw a baby in a fire. There's lots of YouTube videos and alternate websites. You can go look up and see this stuff. There's a couple things I want to say now that I would recommend that people do not do, because sometimes when you see things, you can't unsee them. But during the course of my investigation a year or so ago, I looked up witchcraft holidays, and I saw some things that I wish I could never have seen, involving young children and things when you go to these witchcraft holidays. I'm surprised that even on the internet that these people don't get arrested and burned at the stake. And recently I was going into this other research, and I put in sex magic on Yahoo image site, and it gave me a warning thing. It says, are you sure you want to see this? And as a researcher, you know, I feel it's my duty to take a look and see what this is all about. And I'm here to tell you now, I could only glimpse at it at a flash, and I had to reach my mouse and get out of that page. I can understand now, like with Foley, the senator who was accused of trying to make communications with the young boys they call pages in the Congress building, and other politicians getting caught in these sexual situations. Apparently there is some kind of sexual magic, and the more horrific or the more anti-God thing you can do apparently pleases these satanic demons or gods. When I put sex magic on Yahoo image site and it came up, I said, son of a gun. I mean, there was one guy, I was watching his video today, and he said if these people, like Pizzagate, if that's true, or the Franklin cover-up, which apparently is true, people were prosecuted, or that Savelle guy over in England who was providing young children to the rich and famous. These people, if this is true, and I agree with what that gentleman said in the video I was watching this morning, they should be shot. This is beyond acceptable, beyond belief, but so many people are not aware of it. If you start investigating like I have and you get to stuff like this, it disturbs your mind. It's just, you can't believe that this exists, that these people exist. But then we see the slaughter going on right now over in Syria, while they're having all this talk going on now on YouTube videos and alternate website, and the mainstream news too, about maybe these electors may do a change their minds and give the election to Hillary. So there's a lot of backdoor stuff going on, and it seems very evil. Not that I'm saying Trump is any great guy. This is one of those situations where everybody was saying the worst of two evils, and I didn't want to vote for any evil. But looking at this page 98, the blood libel, and the Jews being accused of doing this all over Europe, little boys missing, and then they find the body, and then they have hearings and arrest these people, and they get run out of this country and that country. These Jewish people all over Europe, I'm not making this up, you can go look it up, pretty common. But the accusation that Jews murdered Christian children to obtain blood for a Passover ritual. Passover ritual. One of the many such allegations was Simon of Trent blood libel of 1475. So in the year 1475, 500 years ago, well, almost, plus or minus, which led to the extermination of the Jewish community of the Italian town of Trent. Simon was venerated as a martyr until 1965, when the cult was suspended by order of the Vatican. So again, you might not want to see this. This is in the Judaica Encyclopedia. So we're talking about this sacrificial stuff, this drinking of the blood that they drain. Look at the pan on there. They're draining his blood. And apparently, a lot of communities were upset on how Jewish people slaughter animals to make them kosher. Because apparently with cows or whatever, it's quite a vicious slaughter. And a lot of people thought it would be much more humane to just, I don't know, shoot the cow. Not the way they do it. And when they did this blood libel to these little boys, apparently they even had pinchers. I've watched numerous videos on this and other material. And this is not one incident. This was many times these people were caught, as documented, and trials were held, as I keep saying. Yeah, but they would put pinchers on these little boys to create more pain. They did not want that boy to die quickly, and they wanted him to be tormented in terrible pain. The reason is because it created some kind of other hormone in the blood before they drank it, like a drug. Witchcraft. It's beyond belief. This stuff is real, and there's a lot of this stuff coming out. Look at the TV shows and the movies and stuff. The horrific, graphic I watched the show Lucifer, I watched the show Gotham, and I was watching Texas Rangers, and of course then they got Modern Family, and before that I was caught up in it with Seinfeld and 2.5 Men. And these shows, these guys were sleeping with different women every TV show. And you don't think that changes people's belief or acceptance of what's right and wrong? So figure 3A, a 15th century German woodcut showing Jews extracting blood from the infant Simon's body. Each wears a distinguishing circular Jewish badge. They got little circular Jewish badges on them. Blood libel. So, and then I got another thing here. Memorial card distributed until recent years at the Cathedral of Trent, where Simon's relics are preserved. So apparently they kept this body in some kind of shrine. There goes that phone again. So anyways, that's my story. Where's my glasses? Gotta see myself in the camera. It ought to be interesting going over these Encyclopaedia Judaica. And I think I'll read the front of this one more time. Because as I keep saying in my videos, I talk to people, young people, old people, and a lot of people reject any belief in God. Not all people, of course. And say Jesus was already proven to not be true. And even in all the occult books, I can see in the language how much they hate Jesus. So are they hating something that never existed? I don't think so. And they talk about Jesus. And in this thing, they talk about blood libel to the little Christian children. But anyways, on the front of this document, so we can all get on the same page, come ye and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. The God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his path. For out of Zion, Mount Zion, ruling the world over there in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Israel, for out of Zion shall up forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So anybody who doubts that that's part of the plan can read it for themselves right there. Trying to figure out what that symbol is there. Is it fire? So I'm going to do some more on this book. I skipped a couple pages. I know which ones I did. I wanted to get the menorah in there. And the blood libel. And thank you for watching my videos. I realize this one might be a little bit mixed up from the different locations I was at, trying to experiment how to do this and find a quiet spot like I've been doing. Thank you for watching my videos with Miracle Reporting.